Hi, my name is Chris Jackson. I am a business attorney. I've been one for 25 years. And today we're going to go over the LLC holding company structure. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages, if any? What does it look like? And how do you set it up on your own? I get this question not only from my clients, but also in the comment section of my YouTube channel. Hey, how do you set up a holding company structure? Should I set it up? What are the steps? So I'm going to cover all of that very clearly and simply in this video, starting right now. All right, first I want to start off with a graphic. What is a simple holding company structure? A holding company is essentially where you are the member and you own the membership interest in the holding company LLC. So in this case, you're the member, you're at the top of this graph. You own the Wyoming LLC, which is, in my view, the type of holding company you should have for the reasons I have set forth in another video, the link to which I'll put in the description under this video. And Delaware is another one that I'd recommend. I have videos on how to set up both, and I'll put links to those also under this video. But this is a typical, simple structure where you're trying to create some additional layers for liability protection and for other reasons, which we're going to discuss, where you, the owner, the member, own the holding company, which in this case is a Wyoming LLC, and then that Wyoming LLC is the sole member of the underlying entity, and that underlying entity is also an LLC. Oftentimes it's going to be in the state in which you're operating. So let's say you live in California, but you want to have a Wyoming holding company structure. You would have a Wyoming LLC, which you own, and then a California LLC. I'm referring to this as OpCo because it's the operating company. And that California LLC is owned wholly by one member, and the member is the Wyoming LLC. So you own the Wyoming LLC, the Wyoming LLC owns the operating company, and all the revenue and expenses and everything are incurred at the operational company level. And then profits are distributed up to the Wyoming LLC and then distributed to you. So this is a typical, simple holding company structure, which a lot of my clients and also people that follow my channel are interested in. If we want to get into something a little bit more complicated, this is a sample of a real estate holding company structure. And you don't need to have multiple members, but I'm using two members in this example. Maybe it's you and your spouse, maybe it's you and your partner. You can have multiple members that own a Wyoming LLC holding company, and that Wyoming LLC holding company will own, in this example, 3 different property LLCs which are located in the state in which the underlying real estate, say the rental property, is located. So let's use California again as an example. And again, you can have a single member at the top here. You can have multiple members. I recommend the Wyoming LLC as the location or jurisdiction for the holding company. And then maybe you start with one LLC in the state of California that owns a California rental property. Just an example, you can have this holding company own multiple LLCs, as is the case in this graphic. And those LLCs, maybe they're located in California. Maybe you have a rental property in Texas as well, or Arizona. And so maybe one of these is a California LLC, the other is a Texas LLC, and the third is an Arizona LLC. However you want to structure it, this is the basic framework. Okay, so now I want to cover what are the benefits of the holding company structure. All right, the first benefit is asset protection, which goes in both directions, and I'm going to cover that. Let's just say that this is a California LLC, and it owns a California rental property, and there's a lawsuit related to this house, this rental property, a slip and fall, or what have you, and this LLC gets sued as the owner of that rental property. The objective is to protect your personal assets from this plaintiff. In this case, you want the potential recovery of the plaintiff to be limited to the assets of just this one LLC and no other assets. No assets of this LLC or this LLC or any of your personal assets, your home, cash in the bank account, other assets which may be exposed. As you know, an LLC is supposed to limit your liability, and some states are better at limiting the liability of the members than others. California is one of those states where there are many different factors which will allow a plaintiff in a lawsuit to pierce the liability protection of the LLC to get to your personal assets. In a holding company structure, even if they were successful piercing through this property LLC in California to try to get beyond it, to assets beyond it, you would be protected by this Wyoming LLC, which owns this LLC, because you don't directly own this California LLC. And if they get through the veil of protection that the California LLC provides, and you own that LLC directly, then you are exposing all of your personal assets to that plaintiff. With the holding company structure, there's an additional layer of protection. And Wyoming LLCs are much more difficult to pierce than, say, California LLCs or most other states' LLCs. This is especially true in the case of a single member LLC, where those are much easier to pierce in California than they are in, say, Wyoming. So in this case, the plaintiff in this lawsuit would have to both pierce this LLC and this LLC to get to your personal assets. You also will notice that each of these properties are owned by separate LLCs, and those separate LLCs are protecting and putting in a silo each of those properties. So those assets are also protected from a lawsuit by a plaintiff related to one property. So in the holding company structure, you are doing everything you can to protect both your personal assets and your other business assets, in this case 2 other homes that your 2 other LLCs own. All right, so now let's talk about asset protection in the other direction. So let's just say, for example, that you are sued personally. And I've used this example before, but let's just say, God forbid, you have a child that is a minor and got into a car accident, and there's a lawsuit, and you are named in the lawsuit, and now your personal assets are exposed. So what you want to try to do is protect your business assets from your personal liability. So in the reverse, the prior example, you're protecting your personal assets from your business liability. Now you want to protect your business assets from your personal liability. So in this example, let's just say that you are sued. If you own the California LLC directly as a member of that California LLC, which own the property in the state of California, the plaintiff in a lawsuit against you could go after your LLC's membership interest and disrupt your limited liability company. But if you have a Wyoming LLC that you own, in this case, in this holding company structure, you don't own that California LLC directly. You own the Wyoming LLC. Wyoming LLC has really good what's called charging order protection. And this charging order protection allows a plaintiff in a personal lawsuit against you, the member of the Wyoming LLC, to recover only distributions that your LLC, your Wyoming LLC, decides to make. Whether they decide to make it or not is kind of up to you and how you structure your operating agreement. But if there are distributions of profit, that's all they can recover against. They cannot disrupt the underlying assets or the underlying LLCs. Everything stays intact. So that is the way that holding company structure provides additional asset protection in both directions. Okay, an additional advantage of the holding company structure, if this is important to you, is privacy. So let's just say you do not want the tenant of your rental property to know who you are or where you live. If you owned, in this case, and this is the case in most states, if you owned, say, a California LLC, you will have to disclose in the state of California who is the member or the manager. In Wyoming, by contrast, there's no way anyone can tell who is the member or the manager of that LLC. So in this case, if a tenant in your California property wanted to look up the LLC's owners, they would first start in California, and if you listed, say, as the member of the California LLC, this Wyoming LLC, and then that tenant would then have to go to the state of Wyoming, the Secretary of State's website, and try to find out who owns this Wyoming LLC. They're not going to be able to figure it out. So this will protect you from getting contacted by tenants directly. So essentially, if privacy is important to you, this is another reason to set up a holding company structure. The third advantage is tax benefits. So what do I mean by that? In this case right here, if you owned directly these 3 different LLCs that own 3 different properties, you would have multiple potentially multiple tax returns. But since you have one company that you own, you can consolidate everything into one tax return for your Wyoming LLC. It just makes things more simple. All right, so those are the advantages of setting up a Wyoming holding company structure. The question now is, what are the disadvantages? Are there any? And the only disadvantage is cost, in my view. Number one, you have two different LLC formation fees. Number two, you have two different annual fees. Fortunately, in the state of Wyoming, the annual fee is only $60 a year, so it's not that much. You will also have, in the state of Wyoming and your home state, if you don't choose to do the agent for service of process on your own, you'll have to appoint one in the state of Wyoming if you don't live there, and that will be an additional cost. Fortunately, the company that I recommend in my video gives you that for free for the first year, and then they cap that cost at $119 per year thereafter. So if cost is a factor, you may want to wait to do it later if you feel like you need to. And then the question is, do you really need the holding company structure? And the answer is, it depends on how risky your underlying business is. For real estate, I always recommend it. For manufacturing or other high-risk businesses where you are subject to, say, potential lawsuit, or maybe you have company that is a delivery service and you're going to expose yourself to potential lawsuits, those types of entities, I would like 2 layers of protection for the reasons discussed here. But it really comes down to what type of business do you have and what is your appetite for these additional costs. All right, so the next question is, how do you set up this holding company structure? And let's assume that you haven't even started a business yet, but you're getting prepared to do it and you want to set up a holding company structure from scratch. So what I would recommend, whether you're doing a real estate holding company structure or non-real estate, you first set up the Wyoming LLC. Again, I have a video on how to do this on your own. If you prefer Delaware, I have a video on that. Step 2 is to form an LLC in the state in which you're going to operate that LLC. It could be for a property purpose, or it could be for just an operational purpose. So you would set up that underlying LLC down here or down here second. And when you do that, you list the Wyoming LLC as the member of the underlying LLC because it is the sole member and parent company of the underlying LLC. That is how you do it from scratch. All right, so let's just say you already have the Wyoming LLC in place. You set up the Wyoming LLC, you would just take that extra step of setting up the underlying LLC with the Wyoming LLC as the member. I also have videos on how to set up LLCs in California, in Texas, in Florida, in North Carolina, in New York, and other states, and the process is pretty much the same. If I don't have a video that covers your state, you can watch another video. And by the way, I recommend for the Wyoming LLC, you set it up as a manager-managed LLC. For the reasons I have set forth in another video, it's just much simpler to administer the LLC when you have a listed manager. And that manager could be one manager or multiple managers. If you're not sure how to do that in an operating agreement, a related company of mine has legal templates for manager-managed LLCs, which are very comprehensive. They're inexpensive compared to paying an attorney like me to do it, or some other attorney, because they don't come with separate legal advice specific to you, but they are attorney quality. In my view, they cover all the issues you could think of. I will put the link to that company's website also in the description under my video. All right, let's say you want to create this holding company structure, but you already have an LLC, say in the state of California or Texas or some other state that owns real estate or is operating as another type of entity, a consulting company or what have you, and you want to set up this holding company after the fact. What you would do is you would create a Wyoming LLC, make the members of the Wyoming LLC exactly the same with the same percentage ownership of the members of the underlying state LLC. And then what you're going to do is you're going to contribute your membership interest that you own in the state LLC to the Wyoming LLC. Instead of contributing cash, you're contributing the membership interest to the Wyoming LLC. And once you do that, the Wyoming LLC will own the California or whatever the state LLC is, and you will own the Wyoming LLC as you set it up before. If you want a contribution agreement, a related company of mine that sells legal templates, in addition to operating agreements and other legal templates, has that contribution agreement that you can purchase at a fraction of what you'd pay an attorney, or go to meet with your local counsel in your state, talk to your CPA, make sure everything is set up okay, have them draft the contract for you. But that is essentially how you do it. Again, I cannot give you legal advice or tax advice unless I'm hired to be your attorney. This is not meant to be a substitute for legal or tax advice. I really encourage you to talk to your professionals in the state in which you're located and make sure you know what you're doing and that you're doing it properly. I just want to give you an overview here of the advantages of the holding company structure and certain steps you can take to set it up. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section. I get to those on a regular basis. And if you like this video, I encourage you to give me the thumbs up. If you would like to subscribe to my channel and get more content like this, I would appreciate it. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And with that being said, I wish you and your LLC and your business all the best. Have a great day. Thank you. I can't make a video without introducing my dog, Jax. Say hi, Jax. Over here. Look at the camera, Jax. There you go.